We will now call to order the meeting of the Muskogee City Council for August 24th, 2020. We will have the invocation by Deputy Mayor Derek Reed, followed by the flag salute. Let us stand.
Shall we pray? Dear Lord, we come thanking you for the gift of another day. Just ask that you would look upon us tonight as we come together to be about the city's business. Ask that you would just order our steps in your word, in your leadings, and in your guidance. Just ask that you would just look upon our world as we are battling the COVID virus. Asking you would just touch and heal in the name of Jesus. Just bless our community as we are also facing racial tension. Just ask that you would just touch the hearts of men to be able to love like you would have us to in the name of Jesus. These are many other blessings we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Attention. Salute. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Jamie Stout.
Here.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Here.
Alex Reynolds.
Here.
Stephanie Morgan.
Here.
Tracy McGee.
Here.
Tracy Hoos.
Here.
We will consider the approval of the minutes for the special call city council meeting for August 3rd, 2020, and the city council regular session for August 10th, 2020. Do we have any corrections or a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Properly moved in second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Tracy Hoos.
Here. Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item is approved. We will now consider the consent agenda, which consists of items 1 through 4. Are there any items that we need to move to the regular agenda, or do we have a motion to approve it as is?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Roll call.
Tracy Hoos.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. Item number 5.
Receive report on the COVID-19 pandemic in Muskogee, and if necessary, take appropriate action to authorize and approve a subsequent amendment to Resolution number 2801, declaring a local emergency, or City-County Joint Resolution number 2803.
Mr. Miller.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. As you all well aware, we are entering probably our almost fifth month of this pandemic and dealing with it as a city. As I noted in my Friday report, we've started receiving disbursements from the state for our reimbursement for some of our COVID-19 expenses, and so we're happy to report that as well. I'm going to allow our emergency manager, Tyler Evans, to come forward and give you an update on the current state of the emergency in the city of Muskogee.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council. In front of you should have the latest data, COVID-19 percentages for today. This was updated as of today. There are currently 87 active cases in the city of Muskogee and 172 in Muskogee County. Now, this is up slightly from last week. Last week, we were at 76 active cases, and the week before that, we're at 85. So we have trended upwards a little bit in our number of active cases for the city of Muskogee. The number of cumulative confirmed cases were up to 427. 328 of those have recovered. The fatalities were still at 12. We've had no fatalities for the month of August. The last update there on your chart was July 27th when we went up to 12 fatalities. If you turn the page over to the back side, there's the chart of our number of active cases that we're tracking it weekly on every Monday. And the rest of the percentages are included in the rest of your report for your pleasure. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Doug Walton with the Muskogee County Health Department to speak on behalf of the Health Department.
Thank you, Todd.
Doug, if you're with us, can you check your mute, please? We heard you briefly, and then you cut out again.
Can you hear me now, Tyler?
Yes, sir.
Great. Boy, I'm sorry about that. Honestly, I kept star-sixing, and it kept saying that I was unmuted and then muted every time. So I'm glad to be with you. Thank you, Mayor, Council. As Tyler reported, we are seeing a little bit of an upsurge in our numbers, both county and city, and seeing similar trends within the region in the neighboring counties as well. And we are, as of Thursday of last week, back into the orange category for the state's COVID risk alert system, and we were able to come out of that for the 1 week prior, and then we're back in, and we'll just have to watch the numbers. They run that on sort of a Friday through Thursday cycle, and as of right now, just looking at the daily increases, if we continued sort of with the trend we've had the last 3-4 days, we'd probably stay in orange, and if we can drop it back down, then we may pull out of that. Continuing to do testing daily at the health department. Although we actually did not run tests today, we will be Tuesday through Friday of this week. Numbers there, actually daily testing has receded just a little bit. Average numbers about 40 a day, give or take. But we are still seeing continued increases in the rate of positivity among those who are being tested. Now currently, as of through the 19th, the date that we last have results for, since June 1st, we're averaging about 9.57% positive on all those tested. Back into really early, mid-July, we were running about 6.5%. And then prior to June 1st, we were down below 1% positivity. So that's something that we continue to watch pretty carefully. Really, guidance remains the same, strongly encouraging, as the city is, wearing face coverings anytime in public, limiting out-of-state travel if possible, frequent hand washing, distance 6 feet or greater, avoid touching your face, staying home if you're sick, and really checking symptoms regularly to make sure you're not feeling ill, and staying home if you are. And I think that's all that I have to report, Tyler, and be happy to take any questions if needed.
Thanks, sir.
Doug, this is Mayor Coleman.
Yes, sir.
Is the state and the county both at the orange level?
Well, the COVID risk alert system that the state set up is really just looking at county to county, and right now the map that was produced on the 20th of August shows about half the counties in orange and the other half in yellow. There's another system that is being used or referred to regarding sort of COVID prevalence that's been reported on, that is comes through the White House COVID task force, and as of well, I believe it's reported weekly, although those have not been publicly available apparently. But the report that came out at the end of July did show the state of Oklahoma as a state being in their orange category, which put us in a high risk level, and there was a string of guidance that they had recommended for the state as a whole to take that I don't believe did. But that is this system that I'm referring to from the state of Oklahoma is really just county by county.
So the numbers that we have that show us half yellow and half orange, that is from the state formula, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. And that threshold is based on cases per 100,000, so it's a per capita measurement of prevalence, and the threshold is 14.39 cases per 100,000. If you're at or less than that, then you're in the yellow. And if you're less than 1.43, you're in the green, but there's none in the green right now. So the yellows are 1.43 to 14.39, and then if you're over 14.39 cases per 100,000, then you're in the orange. Our rating for Muskogee County was 16.6 as of Thursday last week.
The reason why I asked that question because it just validates the concerns that many cities have about not having confidence in the state's ability to correctly account for those numbers, because up until now, that was the first I've ever heard that we're half and half. Usually you're either orange or yellow, and it gives the cities a little better determination for how we can manage the progress, what we need to do to make recommendations. Having said that, do you know if any other counties have written any type of terse letters to the State Department to say that we really need them to have some better guidance so that we could be in a better position to help our residents?
I am not aware of any. Wouldn't be surprised if there had been some, and really encourage any jurisdiction that feels accordingly to do so.
Thank you. Because what we need to be able to do, if we're going to impose or recommend more guidance or stricter guidance, it would help us and do us a world of good as local communities if the state would just pick up what they need to pick up and man up to the process versus us having to figure it out. But that's not your concern. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, next week I can have that map included in this presentation if you'd like. I do want to put a disclaimer on that map that it is only updated once a week, Thursday afternoon or Friday. So it's not day-by-day data. Another disclaimer I'd like to put out that we've learned is that they are retroactively going back and changing the data that we looked at because it's from date of onset, right? So when somebody goes and get tested, or date of symptoms onset, they may have had symptoms for a couple of days or longer, and they're having to go back and adjust that data. So while we look at the chart today, it shows us maybe in the yellow. Tomorrow they may go back and show that we were in the orange for the same time frame. So just a disclaimer on using that map. It's not the best judgment per se, but I will include that in next week's presentation for you.
Thank you.
I would like to introduce Ms. Trish German with Muskogee County EMS to come and speak.
Excuse me, I had a question on the COVID. When the task force, Dr. Deborah, come to Tulsa, Oklahoma on August 16th, it came out in the Tulsa World that Oklahoma is in the red zone for the COVID-19 cases, according to the White House COVID task force document that was obtained. I'm sure we're aware that the governor didn't release some reports, and the reports got leaked. And part of Deborah's trip was not here to say hi Oklahoma, but she was here to tell us that we're headed for the red zone. Are you guys aware of that?
I did hear some news about that, about some of the reports I think Doug also alluded to that came down from the White House as far as guidance. I have not seen any of that yet, but I have heard what you have been mentioning, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, we recognize.
Yes.
You're right, Ms. McGee. When Dr. Burke came down, the governor, he don't know anything about Washington, D.C.'s task force because they're not sending him the reports or he's not getting them or something. This is one of the reports right here. I'm looking at my hand. I read through this today, and this was done on the 16th. This was, we're in the yellow on the 16th. Okay. And the yellow means wear a mask at all times outside the home and maintain physical distance. Limit social gatherings to 25 people or fewer. Do not go to bars or nightclubs. Do not take out dining, indoor dining, while strict socially distancing can be maintained. Protect anyone with serious medical conditions at home by social distancing at home and using high levels of personal hygiene. Reduce our public interactions and activities to 50% of normal activity. Now, this came from the White House, the task force up there in Washington, D.C. This is where I got my hand right here. And like I said, when I read through it today, it was just information that I said, wow. And like I said, I went on the YouTube and I also looked at when the doctor came, and she was talking to Governor Stent and telling him that we need these masks. That's what helps us. So I can look at your numbers here that I got up here, but I also look at what Washington's looking at Oklahoma on. And I don't think we're getting the right numbers or getting the truth. That's just me. Because, like I said, you know, it's right now with yellow. And also, if you go back and look at some of the other records that the Washington Task Force has sent, in June, we were still in the red and the yellow category, but you didn't tell us that, you know. But like I say,
I didn't tell you that?
no.
Are we talking about information that I didn't have? Or are we talking about the White
I'm
House?
talking about, well, I'm talking about information you didn't have.
Okay.
That I had to look up and research myself.
Oh, okay.
But that's what this is. It's information that you don't have, that we had to look up and get myself. So, you know, because I look in the newspaper, and I get the newspaper every day. These numbers are going up and up. And I see all these gatherings we have, still here in Muskogee. You know, just like the other day, we had a big gathering at the Civic Center. A lot of people coming out of there, you know. But, hey, some people you just can't teach. But that's I just want you to know that, you know, that you're not the only one looking at numbers. And, you know, like I said, when that doctor came from Washington, D.C., that opened my eyes to make sure, don't take everybody's word for it. Look yourself. And see what's going on.
I'm glad you say that, Mr. Van, because you're correct. I can only provide you with numbers that I do know of and that
Yes,
I
sir.
have, which is provided by the Oklahoma State Department of Health. So all these numbers here, like, sir, from the coronavirus website that comes straight through the health, from the health department and the executive order reports. So all these numbers here is what I provided, but I'm glad you brought that up. I'm also glad to be part of the only city that I know of to distribute over 100,000 masks to the residents to wear. So we also have that going for us. I want you guys to remember that. I'm glad to be part of that and to provide every resident in the city of Muskogee with 5 reusable masks that they can wear. There's no other questions for me. I'd like to introduce.
You know, I'm going to say one thing on that.
Yes, sir.
And I don't mean no harm. Like I said, I'm up here to represent my constituents. I believe it was a good idea. The money we got from the CARES Act to send the masks to our constituents and to all the citizens in Muskogee. But those masks, what we spent 95 cents for, that could have been better. Because you can take that mask and look at that light right there, and you can see through it. And I think myself personally, if I'd have been sending the mask out and with the money that we had, you know, to send the mask to the citizens here in Muskogee, I think they should have been of better quality. That's just me.
Okay.
I'm not speaking for no councilman or mayor up here, but that's just me.
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
Yes.
With that being said, data shows that the masks that the city did provide were actually very good and what's recommended by the CDC, the cotton cloth mask for general public. Masks like N95 masks are those that are that, you know, those are trying to be reserved for emergency personnel, first responders, hospitals, and that. So the masks that we did put out, I'm also proud that our city did that. I see them every day. I take care of families and kids, and I see our mask probably every other person comes and has that on. And I've gotten good feedback from those families that said that, you know, they appreciate those masks. So turn back over to you.
Thank you.
I'd like to introduce Trish German with Muskogee County EMS.
Good evening, Council. Trish German, Muskogee County EMS. It's a good thing that you brought up masks and PPE because as of right now, Muskogee County EMS is sitting at 3 weeks of PPE. We're having problems getting it in. It's back ordered. So we are working with the state. We're still ordering supplies and trying to get that stuff in. So, you know, right now, the N95 masks, 3 weeks. Medical grade gloves and stuff like that, 3 weeks out. So we're really working on trying to get some more supplies in. We're also sitting about 7.5% down in call volume, from what I understand. And I think that's all I have to report. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes. Is there anything that we can do as a municipality to aid you in getting those supplies faster? Do we need to make calls, write a letter, contact our state and local officials?
You know what? I can get with you tomorrow on that and check with Laurel and see what he wants to do. But, you know, I was just reported that, you know, 3 weeks out. I did call Josh prior to me coming here, asked why we're having problems. He said the main thing is it's just back ordered. We're just not getting it. We're ordering it. We're not getting it in. I do believe that Josh said something about they are working with the state. We were having some problems getting some stuff from the state, so hopefully that will come in soon.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
Mr. Tyler,
Yes, ma'am.
we got PPE that you said that we're happy to be distributing for the state of Oklahoma. What did we receive there, and where did it go?
If you're regarding the PPE that was distributed last week, that was from the state of Oklahoma to our school districts. We were the
for the
distribution
schools.
point for 8 counties and 70 different school districts here in Muskogee.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And I also like to remind our residents that if they need masks, that was mailed out. If they did not come to you, you can receive those masks through our utility payment center on South 3rd Street. Drive through there, ask for some masks, and they'll send you some down the chute to you. The police department, the Postal Service said all the masks were delivered, all for about 200 and something that were undeliverable due to either missing mailboxes or nobody lived there. So out of the 12,000 that were mailed, only 200 and something didn't make it to a resident. So if our residents did not end up receiving the mask, they can stop by the utility payment center and pick up some there, and we'll get you the mask. Other than that, that concludes my update.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler.
Item number 6.
Mr. Mayor, may I recognize?
Yes.
I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna let it go. To me, masks are very important. These masks up here will save your life. I know Dr. Who's is a doctor, and I see you got that city mask on right now. That's fine. But like I said, when you put that mask in that light, you can see it. You put this mask in the light, you can't see. None of the masks we got up here, I guarantee you, even the one Dr. Who's got on, you put it that light, you can see the light, but you can't see through it. But I'll say it again with Washington, D.C. If the governor would keep up with Washington, D.C., and Washington, D.C. would communicate with the governor, only way the governor will communicate is, now Dr. Bouch, or what her name is, she came down here to Oklahoma, and she didn't really, Governor Stent didn't really listen to her. But if been Donald Trump come down here and say, mandate masks all over Oklahoma, he'd have jumped on it so quick, make your head swim. It's just a messenger. Like I learned up here, it's just a messenger. So that's just my 2 cents, and I still think that masks need to be mandated. That's just me. I know the council is not going to vote on it, but that's just me. I'll turn the floor back over to you.
Thank you. We share a common frustration with the state's handling of it in terms of slow response, not managing, and so we'll work towards making certain that we do what we can when they won't. Item number 6.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of Resolution Number 2824, amending the land use map regarding property located along the west side of North 32nd Street, north of Harris Road to the city limits, more particularly described in the resolution from regional corridor commercial to light industrial, and if approved, authorize staff to revise the land use map of the city to reflect said change.
We will now open the public hearing. Ms. Callahan.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This is a request from the city of Muskogee to change the land use map, amend it from the C2 or from a general commercial to a light industrial classification. It is to allow for a rezoning request to be heard at this next item. This is the area that is requested for the land use amendment. It is from the south boundary of what is called Exterior Solutions by Craig's Roofing up to the north boundary of Trucks for You, which is the city limits. This is to change it from a general commercial to a light industrial. This is compatible with the area, the uses that are currently there, future uses that should be there, or we hope would be there, and the design standards of the buildings that they're using. And it would not cause a negative impact in the area. Staff, Planning Commission, and Public Works recommended approval. Be happy to answer any questions.
We did not have anyone to sign up to this item, so we will close the public hearing. Do we have any comments or direction from the council?
Move for approval.
Second.
Been moved and second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. Item number 7.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of ordinance number 4104A to rezone 3217 North 32nd Street more particularly described in the ordinance from C2 General Commercial to I1 Light Industrial, and if approved, authorize staff to revise the official zoning map of the city to reflect said change or take other necessary action.
We will now open the public hearing. Ms. Callahan.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This is a request from Wes Scott, the owner of Scott Towers. He is requesting to go from the C2 General Commercial to the I1 Light Industrial. It is for the construction and development of his headquarters, main offices in a storage facility or storage yard for his cell tower business. This is the area where it's located. Again, you'll see what's surrounding it. It is surrounded by the outside city limits across the street. There is some light industrial already in the area, and the current uses are really under the light industrial use. It does now comply with the future land use map and comprehensive plan, and staff, Planning Commission, and Public Works recommend approval. Be happy to answer any questions.
We did not have anyone to sign up to this item, so I will close the public hearing. Do we have any comments or direction from the council?
Move for approval?
Second.
Been moved in second. Do we have any discussion? Roll call.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout. Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. Item number 8.
Consider approval to authorize the city manager to amend and execute a professional services agreement between the City of Muskogee and Retail Strategies in a reduced amount not to exceed $32,000 for retail recruitment and consulting services, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Garvin.
Mayor, members of the council, this is our annual professional service agreement between the City of Muskogee and Retail Strategies. If you recall, we discussed in the Finance Committee that they have agreed to reduce their price over the next 6 months. This will reduce the annual contract from $40,000 annually down to $32,000 annually. If approved, we will amend the existing contract to account for that reduction in their agreement on their fee. This item's been recommended for approval by staff, Public Works Committee, Purchasing Committee, and Finance Committee. Be glad to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Garvin?
Mr. Garvin, I know that they made a visit on last week.
Yes,
Helped
sir.
change my mind. What do we have any feedback from that session when they came to town last week?
Yes, they were here last week to talk about the downtown business that they discussed with us. They have some potential buyers for a facility within downtown, and that was their main purpose for this visit. I hate to get into too much detail at this point.
And Deputy Mayor Reed, I was in that preliminary session, and I think you would have been pleased. I'll be certain to invite our Deputy Mayor the next time they come to visit with me so that you can have the full spectrum of what they discuss.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I got a quick question, Mayor.
Yes.
You went to that. What can none of the councilmen could go to it? I don't understand that. We councilmen up here. We're supposed to know what's going on in the city of Muskogee?
They normally have a preliminary session that they consider their own executive session just for the mayor and the city manager. And then they have the second session, which you attended, which is open to all the council members, which is basically the exact same conversation.
That's what I'm saying. What's the difference? We're
The only-
councilmen.
The only difference is that when other people come into your city, most of the time they want to meet with the mayor and his staff before they have a session with the rest of the council, because they want to get the gauge to see what is the direction of the face of the city. So as the person who's elected to be that person to represent the city, they want to get a sense for, if we can't trust the mayor being able to support what's trying to go on, then why do we need to go any further in discussing things with other people of the city? So they want to get a good outlook, a good perspective. And I can tell you that from some of the conversations that they had, it was very fortunate that I was in that session, because they had some offline communication with other people in the city that might have been a little bit not palatable for them to even want to come.
I was just curious because, we were told we wasn't able to go to when they first came. And like I said, we all in this game together. We all councilmen, you the mayor. You represent, I know you're the face of Muskogee, but still, a councilman should be allowed to go if you got to say yes or no up here on this panel. And that's why I didn't understand. But since you didn't explain it to me the way you did, but I still think a councilman should be able to go to the meeting along with the mayor.
And I did transmit to them in the meeting that they have full transparency to share whatever they shared with me with you all in this separate session.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. Do you have any other questions for Mr. Garvin or direction from the council?
Move for approval?
Second.
Moved in second. Any other comments? Roll call.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
No.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, and the item passes. Item number 9.
Consider approval of change order number 2 to 24th Street Improvements Project, project number 2017010, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Stewart.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. The change order that we're bringing forward before you today is to do some drainage rerouting on the 24th Street project. The original design had the storm sewer line conflicting with the 24-inch water main that's on 24th Street. That water main is considerably aged, and it is the main supply line for that side of town and St. Francis Hospital. And we were very concerned that if we were to have problems with that line, then we could have that portion of town out of water for a considerable amount of time. So we challenged our engineer to come up with a new design and a new plan. And what they did was they downsized the storm drain pipe and added another, so there's 2 smaller pipes instead of the 1 larger. The 2 smallers are 24s, the 1 larger was a 30 or a 36, I can't remember. But they were able to get enough depth below the 20-inch water line, the 24-inch water line, that we don't have to relocate it. One of the other difficulties in the problem is, though, that because of the ODEQ requirements, there's a separation that has to be between that storm sewer line and the water line. And we couldn't get quite the separation we need, so they allowed us to use a pressured steel storm sewer pipe. That way it wouldn't rupture and cause damage to the water line. So the change order we have before you is to reroute that drainage, the storm drainage. There is a 20-day extension that this project is calling for. And part of the problem is they're not going to order this pipe until this change order is approved. And the way things are running right now, they anticipate a 14-day delivery time. Then there would be 7 days to put it in. And they had were actually 6 days to put it in. And they'd actually asked for 30 days, and we negotiated that down with them to what we felt was more comfortable in the 20. This is a $57,000 change. But it is one staff recommends because we do not want to rupture that 24-inch line, and we don't want to have to move that if we don't have to. Answer any questions, but we do recommend approval.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Stewart from the council?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
Yes.
Let me ask the attorneys this. This is what Mr. Stewart is talking about. I have another question dealing with the project on 24th Street. Can I ask that?
Councilor Van, if your question involves this change order, you absolutely can ask the question, but if it involves something related to the project as a whole, it really just depends on what the question is. So if you want to ask it, I can certainly let you know.
I was out there today. Matter of fact, I was called out there. And right there on 24th Street, it's a church called The Gate, and there's another building going back the other way. What they're doing is, you got alley right here. You already know what I'm talking about, Mr. Stewart, right there on 24th Street. You know where the Gate Church is, going back north. Then the other building's going back south. So they come out with a piece of a concrete curve. It's going like this. It looks like a planter to me. And then they come back over here and going like that, and that looks like a planter. And I'm just curious, I was going to check and see if it was a difference in the code or something, why we couldn't have ran that concrete all the way from 24th Street all the way to Broadway flat without having all these curves, because on the other street over there on Martin Luther King, we made these little planters, and that was the worst thing we could have done. We realized that after we was done. So I'm just wondering, they said it was in the blueprint, but I'm just wondering, what are these things? I think there's some kind of planter, you put a light or tree or something in them, but I'm just wondering why it was done like that. That's just me.
To the project? Okay.
No, but I can answer that question at a later date.
Okay. Since that's not particularly related to the change order right now, it'd be more appropriate not to discuss that in an open meeting. Okay. But Mr. Stewart can provide that answer to you separately.
All right. I'll get with you after meeting, Mr. Stewart.
And Councilor Van, when you get that information, can you share it with the rest of us, please? Because that's a common question about those curvatures.
So if it would help, we will add that to our Friday report.
Okay.
I turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Stewart? Do we
Move
have
for
direction
approval.
from the council?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Abstain.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. Item number 10.
Consider approval to receive donated assets from Kent Fredenberger as successor trustee of the Scott Drawn Revocable Living Trust dated August 29, 1997, and authorize the city manager to execute any necessary documents to complete the transfer of assets and other future funds or take other necessary action.
Mr. Beasy, you certainly don't look like Mr. Tucker.
No, sir.
Good or bad?
Much less well. Mr. Mayor, members of council, it's always my honor when somebody contacts our city and has indicated that someone has left a part of their estate to us. It does happen more frequently than you would be surprised that we hear from. And in this case, Mr. Drawn was born in Muskogee and has generously given our estate, based on his passing, given our city part of his estate. We have two disbursements which are being proposed to you today for acceptance. One is that of mineral rights, a 2.5% interest in 51 different mineral leases. Now, 2.5%, some of the leases are a lease in whole, some are partial leases where we have a 50% interest, so we would have 2.5% of 50%. The second disbursement will come at a later date, which hasn't been defined yet, for the remainder of the cash assets of the trust. We don't necessarily know what that's going to be because there are costs and fees which will come out of that. But in the end, once the final accounting is taken care of, what will happen is the remaining funds will be divided. We'll receive 2.5% of the remainder. We've reviewed the documents. We have spoken to the attorney for the estate. We think it is very generous. We're in with the likes of Leadership Oklahoma, a number of cities. These funds are being donated unrestricted. They're not for any specific purpose, so the council and the manager can decide where they'll be applied. The mineral leases will be ongoing. If they're producing, we'll receive revenue. If they're not producing, they just sit dormant until they do, but they are an asset. At this point, I would recommend approval. Very quickly, if I might, he was born here, and just so we kind of know who he was an educator. He was a lawyer who also did postdoctorate work at Oxford in England, and later in his career he became a social worker to work with children. So he had a very interesting life, and I think it was very nice that he gave this to the city. So I would recommend approval.
Mr. BC, at some point, can you ask the estate if they can give us that bio in writing? I think that,
I have it in front of me.
yes, if you share it with the council, I think that would be very nice for them to have.
I will absolutely make sure council gets a copy of this.
Do we have any other comments or direction from council?
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and motioned and second, rather. Roll call.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. Item number 11.
Consider approval to apply for the 2020 Justice Grant, Assistance Grant, as well as enter into an agreement between the City of Muskogee and the Board of Commissioners of Muskogee County for the disbursement of the funds, with the city receiving an allocation of $15,592 and the county receiving an allocation of $15,591 for a total award amount of $31,183, or take other necessary action.
Chief Teehee.
Mayor and members of the council, this is our annual JAC grant that we apply for in conjunction with the county. Just happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions or direction from the council?
What is grant used for?
In the past, they've been used for computers. This year, it's going to be used to replace some of the weapons that the special operations teams had for years that needs to be replaced.
Thank you.
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any other questions for Chief Teehee? Roll call.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. Item number 12.
Consider the appointment of Daniel Chipkakis to the Roxy Theater Community Trust to serve a 5-year term beginning August 1, 2020 and ending July 31, 2025, replacing Ren Stratton, or take other necessary action.
Councilor Morgan.
He was my only applicant, and his application looks great. I move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Do we have any discussion from the council? Roll call.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. Item number 13.
Consider the appointment of Angie Wilkerson to the Roxy Theater Community Trust to serve a 5-year term beginning August 1, 2020 and ending July 31, 2025, replacing Charles Moore, or take other necessary action.
Councilor Reynolds.
I would like to move. So move.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. Item number 14.
Consider the appointment of Dr. Samuel Craig to the City Facilities Board to serve a 5-year term beginning August 1, 2020 and ending July 31, 2025, replacing Kim Lynch, or take other necessary action.
Councilor Hibbs.
Yes, I met Dr. Craig at the animal shelter ribbon cutting, and that's the first time I'd met him, and I was very impressed with him, and we had a long talk about him getting involved in the city, and his wife Pearline is going off of this, but he will replace Kim Lynch. And I asked him would he be interested, and he said, well, let me think about it, and I'll get back with you. So he called me that afternoon and agreed to serve, so I am happy to present his name and move for approval.
Second?
It's been moved and approved. We want to spread Dr. Craig as thin as we can because he works very well on several of our committees. Any discussion from the council?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I recognize.
Yes.
I think this is a fine choice. I know Dr. Craig quite a while now, and he serves on the street committee, and he does a great job on that. And so it's an honor to see you go on this board, sir. It's a good board to be on, facilities board. That's all our facilities in the city. Take care of them, Dr. Craig. I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Roll call.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds. Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, and the item passes. Item number 15.
Receive presentation and discuss the mayor's Muskogee Be Great initiative, and if necessary, provide direction to staff.
I'm going to ask that Mr. Tucker take my clicker. This is one of those days I don't think I could click and talk at the same time. Y'all could have laughed. That was almost a joke. What I'm proposing tonight does not require procedural approval or political guarantees. It requires a heart for Muskogee and the courage to be great. It cannot be said enough that for all of the excitement and energy that we have for the change and growth that is taking place in Muskogee, that it took us 100 years to get to the problems that we're facing on today. None of our problems happened overnight, but together we will get to better. For example, we're prepared to spend $6 million every year for the next 6 years to improve neighborhood roads and streets. $24 million in matching funds that were approved by voters and $12 million from the annual streets budgets. While we recognize that this is a great undertaking and quite a blessing for a city our size, we also have to be honest with our voters that every street will not get fixed in one pass, and that we may need to come back to them again to have the job continued. But we believe that this is a landmark movement in the right direction to improve streets in Muskogee. 24th Street between Broadway and Okmulgee is near completion. It took time for us to get here, but no council was able to get there faster than the council that we have tonight. This council adopted measures to move the project along forward, and I have confidence that these team of councilors will use their energies to move the project to faster completion between Broadway and Shawnee. I had the opportunity to pretend I was Ivory Van today, and I went and took pictures. And I was happy to see the progress that's being made. Not only are we working on streets, but everyone in the city limits received a face mask. Everyone received a face covering. We were the first and maybe the only city in Oklahoma to do this. As far as I know, we may be the only city in this region of the country to say that we don't only want our citizens to be safe, but as a courtesy, we will give you the mask that you need so that you can be safe in Muskogee. We'll have our free dump day on August 17th. And I'm asking everyone to take advantage of this free service in the month of October. We need a pride pickup in Muskogee. It's time for those of us who are sometimes quiet supporters of Muskogee to outshine those who are loudly opposed to progress and say to ourselves that we will clean up our city. Where there is trash and debris, pick it up. I will volunteer my service, and I'm asking others to do the same, that as we walk along the streets of Muskogee, that we do what we can to clean up our city. Where there are abandoned properties, report them. Where there is blighted grass, say something to the city. Be the change you want to see in Muskogee. Now, we don't just need a cosmetic cleanup. We need a heart cleanup. This past weekend, the Muskogee Phoenix ran a story on possible hate crimes and racial intolerance here in Muskogee. Today, I wrote a press release expressing my sentiments, which I'm certain that all of our colleagues within the city will agree with. It's very brief, so I'll read it now. As I read the front page of the Muskogee Phoenix yesterday, I was disheartened. As mayor of the city of Muskogee, I openly condemn racism and bigotry and all of their associated evils in every form. There are forces at play who would use issues of hatred to divide us when we should be united as one against this evil. We know that Muskogee is better together. Recent events are proof of an opposition determined to distract us from solving our common problems together. But we will remain resolved in our determination to focus on the priorities that mean much to us in Muskogee, uniting people, growing our quality of life, and making Muskogee great. By openly condemning racism and bigotry, I may be making myself one of the largest targets for attack. But if I'm a bullseye for justice, that's a target I'm willing to proudly display. And I'm asking the citizens of Muskogee, don't let me wear that badge alone. We should all work together to be certain that wherever there are acts of intolerance or racism, that we are willing to be a bullseye for justice and call a thing and say that it's wrong and say that we will stand boldly together in spite of making ourselves victims of other attacks. The slide that we see on the screen now cannot portray a clearer picture. Brown hands and white hands, brown faces and white faces, all coming together because we know that Muskogee is better together. We live in an area of the country that has a different type of history than other parts of the country. We've always been a people that have come together. We've always been a people that have been made up of mixed colors. We've always been a people that have been made up of mixed demographics. And now's our time to try to do our best to outshine hatred, to outshine evil, to outshine division, to outshine racism. Muskogee is bigger than the ploys of a few who will use hatred to divide us and distract us. I'm asking Muskogee to rally together and say no to hate and yes to hope. We can be great, but it's up to us. For too long, the vocal minority of complainers have represented the silent majority of those of us who are ready to embrace change and to make things happen. My heart was made to bleed when I spoke to Councilor Reed over the weekend. My eyes were made to water when I read what's happening to other people across our city. When other people who may not even be Muskogee residents have chosen to use Muskogee as a mecca or a base for race baiting, we say to them, if they're outside of our city or outside of our state, you're not welcome in Muskogee. Your intolerance has no impression on us at all, other than for us to say, go back to where you came from. Go back and find Jesus. Go and find a mechanism that can change your heart. Because as for a majority of us in Muskogee, we stand firm with hope. I'm asking us to come from the shadows of negativity and doubt and be heard and be strong and be Muskogee. Item number, where are we?
16.
We have several citizens that have signed up to speak. I'm going to invite you to the podium at this time. As you come, please remember to give us your name and your address, and remember that you will have 3 minutes. Steve Kaidaz, 533 North 12th Street, Muskogee, Oklahoma. If you will come and give us your name and your address, you will have 3 minutes.
It's Steve Chaitis.
Yes, sir.
533 North 12th Street in Muskogee. And I'm here because of a code enforcement issue. I want everybody to listen to this after working a hard day's work, coming home, and receiving this correspondence. You are hereby notified that the above described property is believed to be unsafe or unfit for human occupancy due to its dilapidated condition, and will be posted and placarded in accordance with Section 108.4 of the International Property Maintenance Code adopted by City of Muskogee. Gives the date when I'm supposed to attend, and it says, you have the right to appear at the scheduled hearing and present evidence related to the above listed property. If you fail to appear, a decision will be made in your absence. No other correspondence. I learned from various sources, spoke to my local city council representative, and from information from the city of Muskogee, that one person made a complaint about a pillar on my home. City did not contact us for any reason, did not state what the problem is. I found this out later. And I have something I'm going to read here. I'm a little nervous here. I don't do this. I'm not a public speaker, so sorry. False accusation was made by a resident of Muskogee in May. Then in response to that false claim, legal action was taken against us by the city of Muskogee based on the fallacy. There was no proper investigation conducted before we were summoned directly to a hearing before the Code Enforcement Committee to determine whether or not condemnation of our home would occur. If this practice were legal, it would mean that anyone could make wild, opinionated accusations about another party and keep the accused people entangled in the judiciary system. This is the form of predatory harassment that the city is condoning and practicing under the color of law. Code enforcement failed to properly notify us, required by the International Property Maintenance Code, which they cited. Oh, and we received no correspondence prior to this summons for the hearing, in which we were told we had the right to bring forth evidence to the contrary of the accusation. However, we weren't told what the violation was. So how could we prove that this didn't exist? It was not until August 7th that a gentleman named Kent Parker showed up to our door because of chatter that had been throughout the city. Our city council member had asked questions. This man showed up, spoke to my wife. She'll be coming up and speaking to you guys about that. And he's the one that told us verbally that it was about the pillar. What we want to know is how this could happen just by one person calling in one complaint about a fallacy that was not true.
Mr. Kaidaz, your time is up, and I'm willing to ask the council to give you 2 additional minutes if you think you need them.
Yeah, my wife is going to come up here. I think she'd be better. She's a better public speaker than myself.
Okay.
I'm a little nervous up here, but that's what we're here to convey is why were we targeted and why was this process from a simple complaint jump to them claiming that our house is unsafe and unfit.
And I'm also going to ask that you and your wife, along with Councilor Hughes and McGee, visit with Mr. Tucker.
Okay.
He will make an appointment to visit with you soon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The next person we have signed up to speak, and please forgive me if I don't say your name correctly, Ms. Phoenicia Kaidaz, 533 North 12th Street. You are invited to the podium at this time. Give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you for having me. My name is Phoenicia Chaidez, and you just heard my husband, Steve Chaidez, speak. And I will be speaking in regards to the same issue. We didn't know how much time we were going to have available to speak, so I did try to condense this into something that he was reading to you. But for the most part, what he mentioned was that we received this letter from code enforcement that states that our house is unfit for human occupancy. It's unsafe due to dilapidation, and we find that to be an absolute fallacy and an absolute lie. I would beseech each and every one of you, there's an open invitation here for anyone to come by my home and validate that claim. So our concern, it's a greater issue than just that. The concern is that, like my husband mentioned, if one person can approach the city or code enforcement division and say, hey, I believe this to be true, and we just get summoned into a hearing without any prior notification, any warning, give us a citation if there is some type of code violation. We're tax-paying residents of Muskogee. We love this city. We moved here from California 4 years ago, and we have invested our blood, sweat, and tears into this city. We purchased this historical mansion that sat and sat and sat, and it was beginning to rot. We took it upon ourselves to purchase that and give that glory back to the house, which is what it deserved, for something like this to happen. We have invested every penny that we work hard to earn into that home for someone to walk onto our porch trespassing and make a claim that's not true. They looked at one porch pillar because there's a piece of plaster falling off and they call it ugly, and then it jumps into this, it's unsafe and unfit to be lived in. We have children and we hold ourselves to higher standards than that. It would be negligent of us as parents if we allowed our children to move into a home of that size knowing that it's unsafe. As a matter of fact, when we did move into the house, there was so much interest in the home. People want to stop and take pictures at our home. They want to have their weddings and their birthday parties at our home. We happened to have several people stop by that had a personal interest and a personal love for that home like we do. One of those was a qualified inspector, certified inspector. Another one of those was a structural engineer. They got to walk through that house, all 5,000-6,000 square feet of it from basement to finished attic, and they both agreed at different times that that's one of the most well-built and one of the most structurally sound homes they have ever seen in their 30-plus years of doing what they do. So our problem is if the city allows this one random person to just make a false accusation and then yank us out of our lives, make us miss work to attend events like we're attending now, and we have the hearing to attend based on that letter that we received from code enforcement, where is the line drawn? Because I will give you an extreme example. If I wanted to walk over to your property and say, I don't like the way that looks, I think that they're abusing a dog on that property.
Ms. Kaidez, your time is up, but would you like 2 minutes?
Would that be okay?
I move for approval.
Second.
Thank you
Roll
for
call.
That. Thank you for that. So if I decided
We have to
to
vote
make,
first, Ms. Kaidez.
I'm sorry.
We're going to vote to give you the 2 minutes. Roll call.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes. Go ahead, Ms. Kaidez.
Thank you. I appreciate that,
Yes,
and I'm
ma'am.
sorry for jumping the gun there. I'm not much of a public speaker myself, but I will go ahead and get back to what we've scripted to say because I can go on a rant for a long time. But basically, our issue is that I cannot randomly walk over to anyone's home and make some type of wild accusation based on no proof and no facts, and then have those people just summoned into a hearing. Where is the line going to be drawn on that? So if I walk over to your house and I say, I think they're abusing a dog at that property, and you should receive a summons from the city to show up to a hearing before the council. How is that any type of legal sense? It makes no legal sense at all. So if there's someone that chooses to target us for this reason, they could perpetually keep us in this cycle of missing work and showing up to a hearing on a date and a time that the City Code Enforcement Division says to. Okay, so this procedure, unless the code enforcement officer or all the city employees that were involved in this made some type of mistake and that mistake is going to be admitted, what we're here to do is we're here to change that entire process. If that is the protocol that the City of Muskogee Code Enforcement Division follows, it needs to be changed. And that's what we're going to pursue from this moment on. So I'll go ahead and finish up my statement here. I won't keep you all much longer. We're highly offended by this because we do take pride in ownership. That is a beautiful home, and our pride of ownership shows in that house. We took that project on when no one else in this city wanted to, and we're just disgusted. We feel targeted. We feel harassed by this, and I feel that it is a predatory practice. I do believe that there's some differentiation between what occurred with us and what occurs with other people that have interaction with the Code Enforcement Department, for the fact that so many other people receive citations. Well, hey, they're saying that my home or my property is in violation of this city ordinance. I got this warning letter or I got this citation. However, when it came to us, we just got summoned straight to a hearing without.
Titus, your time is up.
Thank you.
But I'm going to ask that you and your husband please follow the direction I presented to you early to make an appointment with Mr. Tucker.
Okay.
And then we'll try to work through that.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for hearing us.
Yes, ma'am. The next person we have signed up to speak is Mark Hughes. I'm going to ask that you come to the podium, give us your name and your address, and you will have 3 minutes.
Mark Hughes, 907 Nelson Drive, Muskogee, Oklahoma.
Yes, sir.
I've timed my speech. I'm going to ask for 6 minutes.
Move for approval to extend this minutes to.
Second.
Roll call.
How long are we extending?
We're extending total time.
This
6
deals
minutes.
with the Chavez issue.
Yeah, total time 6 minutes.
Yes.
Yes.
Roll call.
Tracy Hoos.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, Mr. Hughes, please proceed.
Thank you. I'm going to present information that city officials knew or should have known that the condemnation letter presented to Ms. Chavez violates a city ordinance that was adopted years ago and is unconstitutional because it violates a due process as guaranteed by the Constitution. First, Chapter 1 of the International Property Maintenance Code, which, by the way, the city adopted as an ordinance, clearly states that, quote, the provisions of Chapter 1 establishes the rights and privileges of the property owner, end quote. So right off the bat, city leadership knew or should have known that the IPMC requires the city officials to protect the rights of property owners, but you wouldn't know that by their alleged illegal actions. Second, in regard to Ms. Chavez's summons letter, building official Mr. Kent Parker could not have inspected this property because if he did not comply with the International Property Maintenance Code, which again is a city ordinance. Third, the complaint against Ms. Chavez was filed more than 90 days ago on May 18th. So Mr. Parker had plenty of time to inspect the property, but apparently never did, which to me sounds like dereliction of duty. If Mr. Parker had inspected her house, he would have discovered it was not true. Therefore, the complaint being from one person is considered a private nuisance according to the city ordinance and state law. City ordinance and state law provide for resolution for private ordinances. Mr. Parker should have known this if he was properly trained. Fourth, the summons isn't even signed. Fifth, the IPMC requires the summons be certified by the appropriate official, which is Mr. Dan Hurd, and that was not done. Six, on page 3 of the IPMC reads that when a code official determines there's been a violation of this code, the IPMC, then, quote, notice shall, which is an imperative, no choice, be given in the manner prescribed in section 107.2 and 107.3, end quote. 107.3 is very specific in that the notice, quote, shall, again, we have no choice, be in accordance with the following. 1, be in writing. 2, include a description of the real estate sufficient for identification. 3, include a statement of the violation or violations and why the notice is being issued. Remember, this is a city ordinance. By the way, a notice by the city titled items needed before an appeals hearing will be scheduled says that the property owner needs to provide, quote, an estimate of all the repairs needed to bring the structure up to code, end quote, which the summons letter does not provide in violation of the IPMC, a city ordinance. So how are the property owners supposed to know which repairs to make if the city never tells them? 4, include a correction after order allowing a reasonable time to make the repairs and improvement required to bring the dwelling unit or structure into compliance with the provisions of this code. 5, inform the property owner or owner's authorized agent of the right to appeal. 6, include a statement of the right to file a lien in accordance with section 106.3, end quote. All 6 of those are supposed to be in the summons order that Ms. Chavez and all the other property owners have received to appear before the Public Nuisance Board. So this summons only satisfies 2 of the 6 requirements. And according to an attorney I consulted, omitting just one of those 6 steps is a violation of due process. And in the 2017 Vaughn case, Rudy Fuller, retired non-certified code inspector, testified that this summons letter does not comply with the IPMC. Unfortunately, all of this looks like a sham by no fault of the present City Council. When the city adopted the revised Public Nuisance Board, city leadership apparently thought that it made the city look like it was complying with the law when apparently there was no intent to do so. So for 3 years, city leadership failed to read the transcript involving testimony by Gary Garvin and Rudy Fuller, nor the applicable portions of the IPMC concerning the summons letter. Or if they did, they ignored the requirement to change the summons letter to comply with the IPMC. Again, a city ordinance. Garvin, who testified in the trial and as assistant city manager, has oversight of the planning department. And he's also the planning department director for 10 years. He should have known, or he knew, these requirements. So for more than 3 years, city leadership ignored its own ordinance. Unbelievable. So for all this time, while city ordinances, state laws, and the constitutional rights of property owners were being validated, Mr. Miller apparently did nothing. He else knew about it and did nothing, or he was not told. So why did that happen? How did that happen? Who made the decision not to comply with the city's own ordinance and state law? These are good questions for the city council to discuss with city leaders. Furthermore, it looks like, and more likely is true, that there was an intentional effort or else gross negligence by city leadership to keep this city council out of the loop or misinformed. It is also obvious that there have been actions taken, intentionally or not, by certain people to not follow the law for whatever reason. Trust and integrity is essential in running any organization, especially a city. If city officials who are paid with taxpayer dollars cannot be truthful or exhibit integrity or follow city ordinances or ensure the constitutional rights of its citizens, why are they still a city employee? The city council is the last defense to protect the civil and legal rights of the citizens you represent. If the city council does not take swift and decisive action to stop this, then what good is the city council? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. The next person that we have signed up to speak is Councilor Ivory Van. If you give us your name and your address, you'll have 3 minutes.
This one up, yeah. Come on in. Come on in. It's new. Yeah. My name is Ivory Van. I reside in 4338 Columbus Street, apartment 406, and y'all welcome to come see me anytime. I'm going to ask before the clock gets started if I can have 5 to 6 minutes, and so can you stop the clock?
What's the pleasure of the council?
Move for approval.
Second.
5 or 6?
6 minutes.
6 minutes. Everyone clear? Roll call.
Tracy Hoos.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes. Mr. Van, please proceed.
Yes, I drive around Muskogee, and I see a lot of things. This what I saw is something is just magnificent. Miss Newton here, she's a person, she's the pastor of our Gates Church. She passes out food every week. And I also like to thank Miss Newton for doing that. with her church and her staff. Also, I'd like to thank Ms. Stephanie Morgan for going and picking up a fork truck that ex-Councilman Kell gives them free of charge to pick up so they can take the food out the truck and put right there on the pallets so that people can drive through that long line starting at Speedway, even sometime further. So I want to thank you and ex-Councilman Kell, Ms. Morgan. I think that's a wonderful gesture to our community. Also, I would like to thank Ms. Wilma Newton for doing it, just like I said just a while ago, from the Gate Church and her staff. Pastor Weber and Divine Love Church, they're another one that goes around and pass out food for different people in our community that need it. And also, the Temple of Hope, Mayor Coleman. You and your staff, y'all pass out food to people here in the community that need it. So that's a great blessing that y'all bestow upon the people of Muskogee, Oklahoma. Catholic Charities, they're passed out food out there at St. Francis Hospital. They've stopped passing it out now, but when they were doing it, the lines was long out there, and that's a great help to our citizens of Muskogee. The City of Muskogee Foundation, I'd like to thank them because they passed out food at Hatbox, and you directed them, Mayor. You directed the traffic. So I'd like to thank the City Foundation for doing that. And also Pastor Wiley at the Civic Center and his staff. I don't know exactly, I just know Pastor Wiley, I seen him. I don't know who all was over this program, but I'd just like to thank every one of these people that I named for being so good to our community and giving up their time, because time means something. We as councilmen up there, our time means something because we give a lot of time out. So I'd like to thank each and every one of y'all that on this list that I read, and I hope I didn't forget anybody, that gives their time and effort to the city of Muskogee, because people don't have to be kind. People don't have to be nice to you. They can treat you like, you know what I'm saying. But like I said, you know, the people that I named are well worthy of this recognition. You can be sitting, Ms. Newton. I know that you probably read about different things in the paper that me and Councilman Reed and Tracy Cole is going through, but that's okay, because one thing about it, you can do wrong for so long, but right always overrules wrong. So you know what? Standing up here tonight, I remember when we debated about security downstairs, but y'all didn't know why we debated about it. But I know we're glad we got security downstairs now. I know y'all glad, right? Right. I know I am. Because like I say, God's got my back, God's got Councilman Reed's back, and God's got Tracy Cole's back. He got all our backs. So when I walk out that door, I don't fear nobody coming up and shooting me and doing this and doing that to me, because God is still in control. There's some mean people still in the world, but we can't help that. As long as we're alive, there's always going to be somebody after you. You got haters out there. But if they could step in our shoes up here on this council and as mayor and to see what we do for free every day, they wouldn't do it. So hate is here, that's fine. But I just thought I'd say that tonight because, like I say, I try to respect anybody that, you know, I run across. Because respect, if you respect a person, they'll respect you. And like I say, we didn't deserve what we got. By no means we deserve what we have been through. But like I say, I'm just thankful for my family and for my council, just for the people, citizens here in Muskogee that has called me, and Councilman Reed and Tracy Cole, to say, Ivory, we got you. We stand with you. We stand with you, Councilman, Deputy Mayor Reed. We stand with you, Tracy Cole, because people don't, like I say, people don't have to stand for you. But like I said, we're going to continue to keep on keeping on. And one thing about it, we're going to stay on our knees. And I guarantee you, when we pray, God listens to our prayers. So I'd like to wrap it up now, and I'd like to thank you, the council and the mayor, for me giving this time for me to say this, and also, again, for all the people that helped us on that food project. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Van. Item number 16.
Consider an executive session to discuss and take possible action on the following. A, pursuant to Section 307B4, Title 25, Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss potential actions or claims related to 1, a derelict structure located at 800 South 32nd Street, and 2, an unsafe structure located at 534 South 32nd Street, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session. B, pursuant to Section 307B1, Title 25, Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to evaluate the performance of City Manager Mike Miller, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session.
We need a motion to go into executive session.
Move for approval.
Second.
Roll call.
Tracy Hoos,
Yes.
Tracy McGee,
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan,
Yes.
Alex Reynolds, Evelyn Hibbs,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Ivory Van,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed,
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. I'm going to ask that you all will please excuse us as we go into executive session at this time. We will now reconvene from executive session. Roll call.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Jamie Stout.
Here.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Here.
Alex Reynolds.
Here.
Stephanie Morgan.
Here.
Tracy McGee. Here. Tracy Hoos.
Here.
Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 16A, pursuant to Section 307B4, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, the City Council did convene an executive session to discuss potential claims or action relating to the two properties described in the agenda. After being briefed on the status of those properties within the code enforcement process, direction was given to the city attorney on moving forward. No further action is necessary at this time. Item 16B, pursuant to Section 307B1, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, the City Council convened an executive session to evaluate the performance of the City Manager, Mike Miller. That evaluation was completed, and no further action is necessary at this time. Mayor.
Thank you for your patience on tonight. We are adjourned.